Hi everyone. In this lesson, we're going to briefly talk about null and undefined. Null and undefined are two different types in TypeScript, the same as in JavaScript. On a fundamental level, they do signify lack of a value, but at the end of the day, when it comes to TypeScript, TypeScript is going to interact with null and undefined as though they're two different types. Let's take a look at some examples. I'm going to say I have a variable called something1, and I'm going to type annotate it to null. The only value that this is going to accept is going to be null. If we go ahead and if we give it, for example, a value of 1, it is not going to work. Let's take a look at what the error actually is saying. So the error is grabbing this 1, which is a value, and it is converting it into a type. That's why it says type1 is not assignable to type null. So that's about null. Null and undefined, I'm sure you know the difference. Undefined is when you have a variable, but you don't know the value. But null is actually a value on its own. So null is when the value of that variable has nothing in it, so it's null. But undefined is when you initialize a variable and you do not give it a value. That's when you use undefined. Let's take a look at undefined as well. So something 3, and I'm going to type annotate it to undefined, and I'm going to give it like a string of hi. Let's take a look at the error. It is grabbing that string of hi and it is converting it into a type. TypeScript is doing that. And it is telling us that these two are different types. They cannot be of the same type. All right. So the only value that we can assign to undefined is actually undefined itself. And as you can see, since we have two errors here, TypeScript is not compiling our code into JavaScript. But what if I go ahead and I create another variable, let's say 5, and let's type annotate it to null, and then I'm going to type annotate it to undefined. I'm going to change this to 6. Here I'm going to say undefined. Come on, buddy, undefined. And here I'm going to say null. Is this going to work? No, it's not going to work. Why? Because again, TypeScript is grabbing this and it is converting it into a type. Of course, these two types are not the same. And typed undefined and type null are not the same. And it's not going to work for the reverse of it as well. Let me comment out everything here. And there is one more thing that I'd like to briefly talk about because we're going to cover that in more depth in our next lecture, which is a really, really important concept in TypeScript. If we have a variable, let's call it something 7, I'm not going to type annotate it. I'm going to give it a value of null, and then I'm going to give it a value of undefined. What do you think is going to be the type inferred by TypeScript? Let's take a look at that. So the type is any. We haven't talked about any, we haven't seen it. And what we're going to do is, in our next lecture, we're going to talk about the type any. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.